AlabamaWorks webinar series, the series of webinars from the AlabamaWorks division. We're for the month of April, we're going to turn it over to Tim McCartney, chair of the Alabama Workforce Council.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our April Alabama Workforce Council webinar. Today, we're going to hear from Mr. Todd Walker, who is Vice President of the Associated Builders and Contractors of Alabama, and talking about their partnership with the Alabama State Department of Education in the Alabama Academy of Craft Training in Birmingham. Following Todd, we'll have Mr. Massey, who's president of the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering in Huntsville. And then Ms. Jen Briones with Credential Engine will be talking about Alabama's Secondary Credentials Project. And following Jen will be Dr. Amber Garrison Duncan, who will be talking to us about the Alabama Talent Triad. And following Dr. Garrison Duncan, we'll have Nick Moore to close us out with the monthly labor report. So without further ado, Todd, you're up.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all having us today. I'm going to start a slideshow and then we'll get going. But as you said, I'm Todd Walker. I'm with Associated Builders and Contractors here in Birmingham, but represent the state of Alabama. And, you know, we've had a partnership with the state for many years in regard to a program that we're extremely proud of, the Academy of Craft Training. I want to share with you today a couple of the things that make us unique and different. We have a lot of partners that make this program successful. We'll highlight those and hopefully we'll share some ideas with you that might spur you or your industry or get you involved with Academy of Craft Training, etc. So without further ado, we'll get this thing started. We started and we did strategic planning with this, our association, the Associated Builders and Contractors of Alabama. We represent the commercial and industrial construction industry. We did some strategic planning back in 2016. We have done some things in the past, such as PR marketing campaigns. Hopefully some folks are familiar with potentially Go Build Alabama. But our board and our strategic planning group said, hey, how do we get hard hats to the job site? We see a void of completing that circle and that loop. And what we would like to see is some applicants that get to our job site. Fast forward to a couple meetings, working with the governor, working with AIDT, Ed Castile, who's a partner. And at that time, also the Alabama State Department of Education brought a group of folks into the room. There was a void here in the Jefferson, Shelby, St. Clair County area for high school juniors and seniors for career tech, especially in the construction industry. So we leveraged some partnerships and from there launched the Academy of Craft Training. One thing I want to focus on is in our strategic planning, where was that target audience? And again, I reiterate, it's high school juniors and seniors. So on your screen here, you see this is what makes us unique and different. These students come from numerous schools in the 3-county area, and I'll go over that with you. So again, established in 2016, public-private partnership. We have various sources of funding to make this happen. And our mission is to recruit and educate those high school juniors and seniors to get them into the construction industry. We want them to continue later on in their education, but our goal is to immediately, as they're in our school, to start working them in internships, co-ops, etc., and allowing them and connecting them with contractors to where they can then have an opportunity to go immediately into the industry. So what makes us a little bit different is we work with 31 Birmingham metro area schools and we have 15 school districts. And we could not do this without a great partnership with our State Department of Education. At our school, what makes us a little bit different is we have, from the education component, we have a equivalent of a director that's provided from the State Department of Education, and we have a counselor to deal with the schedules, the busing, the school credits. What we provide at the Academy of Craft Training is our instructors are teachers. However, they're employed by the Academy of Craft Training. and they work directly for us. They come from industry, and we're able to teach those immediate skills that we have noticed and that the industry has told us we need. Annually, we receive 350 applications, and we interview and accept 250 students. Again, high school juniors and seniors. Our students come 5 days a week. We have a morning session and afternoon session of seniors. And again, you got to imagine the busing in or students commuting from these 31 different schools is a feat that we could not get accomplished without those partnerships with the Department of Education. We teach 5 trades: building construction, HVAC, plumbing, welding, electrical, and interior and exterior finishes. Once you get to our campus, we have it is a simulated workplace. Our students clock in, clock out. It's hard hat PPE. Our goal was to emulate and to simulate what the student will see once they go out to the job site and start performing that job and or duties. Some of the things that make us unique is we don't have funding per se. Perkins dollars don't flow through us through school districts. So we leave those dollars part at the schools. The only thing we ask out of our participating high schools and districts is we follow the rules and regulations that are in that simulated workplace and that closely aligned to industry. And our number one thing that we come out of the bat with day one is we have a 0 cell phone tolerance policy. You can't do it on the job site. It's a safety issue. We go ahead and create that standard day one at the academy. The other thing is we are commercial industrial construction, right? And we have strict OSHA and PPP guidelines. So our number 2 goal is, hey, we're going to be safe, and you're going to be safe in this industry. So we're very proud of that, and we force that day in, day out. Students clock in and out, as I've stated. The students come and they go to their lab areas. They have classroom and lab time. And what we're also proud of, there's no cost to the student for this. We provide this for the student and the school. There is funding mechanism in place, but we don't want that student to have to come out of pocket for anything. And we want them to show up to the industry. One of the other things that makes us unique is when our students are being interviewed, the 350, we have industry come in and evaluate and interview those students. The other thing I would like to point out is, we're only as good as our pipeline of students and or our industry that's hiring them. So we have a year-round game plan where we actually start in the fall preparing to recruit our students for next year's class. So a lot of work goes into this. What makes us different, go ahead, Charles, is along the way, and this is what I point out to everyone, if your number one takeaway with the Academy of Craft Training, besides the partners that make this successful, is we work. Our students work, if they start in the fall, we work over fall break or Thanksgiving break. We have students that work over winter break. We work over spring break. Our juniors and seniors work over summer breaks, and it inevitably leads to that full-time employment. Our motto is, if you come to the Academy of Craft Training and you participate and make it through the training and our standards, we're going to connect you with a job. And that's been our motto since day one. We've always lived up to that. And we're extremely proud of it. Now, what I will say, and again, what I stress is we're work-based, right? We educate, but we have found that carrot for these high school juniors and seniors is really where we meet the mark, is when they are able to go work, even for a week, and these are paid good jobs that we place them into. It connects the dots with them earning a paycheck and at the same time being able to see how this relates back to their educational track while at the Academy of Craft Training. I'm going to go ahead, and because we are proud of our workforce and we're proud of our students, we have a video that I'm going to spool up here real quick that I think does a really good job. And you can hear as I tee this video up, these are students that have graduated from the Academy of Craft Training and that are in their current in the industry and employed. So I'll go ahead and tee that up and we'll go from there.
These days, there's too much talk of degrees and diplomas. The truth is, 30% of high school graduates don't attend college, and they don't need to. The skilled trades offer an opportunity right out of the gate for young adults willing to work. You can start your training right away. You can earn as you learn, and you won't be burdened by student loan debt for years to come.
You don't have to have a college education to be successful. So this trade is another opportunity to be successful in life.
I didn't have any experience coming into this, and I was like, this is something I really want to try.
What inspired me to come to ACT was I wanted to see things come together, and I wanted to be part of the team, and ACT gave me that.
I've heard that we need more construction workers and stuff out in the industry. I'm like, hey, I'm willing to help whoever. I'm here.
Driving around, you get to look at that and say, I built that, tell your kids, and it's just something that look back and say something you did.
They gave me a purpose because, I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted to go to college or go straight to work or, just wait. But once I learned that trade, it did help me a lot.
The ACT really just gets you a foot in the door. I don't believe I'd have had a job without them. They let you get an insight to the job you're going to be doing. They teach you a lot.
Through the academy, you learn a set skill, and it's something that you can take with you the rest of your life. And also, too, construction offers you a good paying job, and it teaches you hard work and responsibility.
It's amazing what it's done for me and what it will do for me. So I'm pumped.
What came out of it is me having a full-time job, a career path that I'm always set on. And not a lot of people get a job at the age of 19, 18. It's kind of hard for us to find jobs. So it kind of set me directly on the right path that I wanted to go.
I think this opportunity extends to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. If you want to work, these contractors will give you a job. And I think it's an amazing thing.
At the Academy of Craft Training, our mission is to prepare young people for jobs in the construction industry, no matter your background, education, or experience. Right now, we're recruiting for our next class. We're looking for young men and women interested in welding, electrical, building construction, HVAC, plumbing, and other skilled trades. Construction is not a job or a hobby. It's a career. And if you're serious about taking the next steps, sign up today. You've got a vest with your name on it. These days.
So, from that video, and I've covered a lot here today, again, the takeaway is we are only as viable as our output, and that's those students. And, we have worked hard, and we have worked hard with the governor's office, AIDT, by allowing us in our partnership to have space, the State Department of Education to work with us to kind of help make this program possible. But at the end of the day, we have figured out completing that cycle. You got to get them in, recruit them, you got to educate them, but along the way, they've got to work. And when you connect that dot, we can get them to employment. I like to tell everybody we're not anti-education, we're pro-education. We just we're pro-workforce first. And we have numerous examples of our students that are able to go to work. And then we have companies that we say, hey, they will tell you what further education you need to meet your skill sets. And matter of fact, ask them to pay for it. And that's what we're about. So exciting to say, what's the future look like for the Academy of Craft Training just this year after 2016, starting this thing this fall. We are replicating this down in the Mobile region to that workforce region. We have partnered with AIDT, and we're going to be at Brooklyn, for those that are familiar with you, at the Mobile Airport Authority. And we are reaching out to those. The unique thing about Mobile is Mobile County is an extremely large school, but we also have Saraland, Satsuma, and Chickasaw county schools as well, and city schools that we're working with. So it's the goal is to replicate what we're doing here in Birmingham, and we're underway making that happen for this fall. I also like to say, for those that are in the North Alabama region, we have been meeting with our contractor members up there, And we have gotten some strong levels of commitment and support from a lot of these same partners to potentially fall of 2023, we expand to the Huntsville area. With that being said, I love to show this photo again. The students are our lifeblood, and it takes a lot of folks to make it happen. The people you see in the orange vest, those are industry folks that, again, are the Academy of Craft Training instructors. So it truly is a public-private partnership that we have been blessed with and have been allowed to work with various entities to pull this off. We hope and we pray this will keep going because it truly is working for our industry. And hopefully I've shared some things today and spurred some interest potentially for your industry, and or if you're interested in finding out more about the Academy of Craft Training, let us know. With that, Mr. McCartney, that's it for my presentation. Hopefully I didn't go over my time allotment, but thanks for giving me the opportunity today.
Yes, sir. You did a great job, Todd. I really appreciate it. And we thank you for your leadership in connecting students to in-demand jobs and careers in Alabama. I personally have had 2 visits to the Academy of Craft Training in Birmingham, and I was very impressed, particularly with the whole surroundings, the students, and the instructors. It's a great partnership with the Department of Education and Industry. And we look forward to your new program opening up in Mobile, and hopefully we'll get a few more. So thanks again, Todd. We appreciate it. Keep up the hard work. Next, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Matt Massey, who is president of the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering. Dr. Massey, you ready to go?
All right. As soon as I mute myself, I will be. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate everybody here and to get a chance to talk about our school. So we are the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering. We're located in Huntsville, but we serve students all over the state. So we got a map behind us there. We got kids from Mobile, Dothan, Sumter County, Birmingham, Montgomery area, and all that. So I'll jump into it here real quick and talk a little bit about what we got going on. First, we have a mission of, see here, to ensure all students achieve high levels of learning. We want to be a place where our students come up here and they are successful. And there's no, there's not this sense of, hey, if you're struggling, you got to go back home type of thing. But we give them that support, and the vision is to be a national model that we're already seeing that take place, even though we've only been going for in our 2nd year here. So just a few facts about us, and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. My computer is doing some odd stuff here on my screen. I'll tell you what, let me unplug my. Do you guys still hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Good deal. All right. So one of the things that really kind of brought this school into creation was the pipeline that is in that cyber needs. Everybody needs cyber, from healthcare to banking industries, financial industries, obviously pipelines of oil pipeline that got shut down there too. Governor Ivey emphasized that in a speech to a big crowd last week. Just talked about how they're continuing to invest in our school. We are a boarding school. We're a high school serving grades 9 through 12. Kids live with us, and we have about 150 students right now. We'll grow to 250 next year and be about 340 going forward. So in August 2020, we opened up at Oakwood University, and next summer we move into our new campus. And so there's no charge for that tuition or housing, and so we kind of run sort of like a high school. But the other part though is we also help other school systems that are trying to work cyber into their field. or work those certifications into their programs. So Oakwood University is at the north end of Wynn Drive. If you're familiar with Huntsville, we'll be moving to Cummings Research Park. And you can see the permanent site there would be near UAH. But we got a lot of good neighbors just in our vicinity. We're kind of surrounded by Northrop Grumman and Lockheed and Teledyne Brown and all these other good partners that our students will work directly with. Part of our requirement for graduation here is to do a work-based learning, is to do an internship or a co-op. And so we are building partners that are right here in our neighborhood. So that's kind of a look at a rendering of our facility that we'll be moving into this summer. And the building at the bottom part will be the dormitory that will hold 150 kids. The academic building is at the top part there. So we have a mixture of day students that commute in and other students that live with us. We do have a foundation that plays a big role in our success, and the foundation really brings together stakeholders that include our local government. The city of Huntsville actually bought and donated the land that our school is on. The state of Alabama is a big piece of what we got going on. This was led by Governor Ivey in creating that legislation and funded as part of the ETF. And our allocation is going to be $10 million, or right there at it, for the next fiscal year. Senator Shelby and the whole congressional delegation from Alabama, Senator Tuberville, has been very supportive of the school, and they're advocates for us. And we have a number of partnerships with federal agencies, from the Army to the National Security Agency and all the different FBI, all kind of different things there. And we also are partnered with universities and the community college system that hold seats on our board. And we create MOUs of partnerships with them and universities from outside of Alabama as well. And what it brings in for partners that come in. And so we don't get local tax dollars to build that school. So we have to have industry partners is kind of filling that gap. The funding from the state basically helps operate the school. But what we do for partners is create that pipeline of workers. We also can give recognition, and we help that, like when they support an innovative educational program. Is an outreach. We go through and intentionally recruit underserved areas in Alabama, whether we're running a middle school cyber camp in Bullock County or recruiting in Sumter County for students to come. And so that development piece helps bring in those partners as well. So with those kind of three branches of the governmental agencies, industry, and then higher education is really what works. All that kind of triangulates and work to raising money to build that building. So far they've raised about $15 million for the building, for a total project that's $35 million. And the point is to take this talent that's coming all across the state and keep this talent around and in state. And some are getting offers to go right to work when they graduate from us. And but all are on a kind of a college bound pathway too. So with that, that's my presentation there, and I'll turn it back over to you guys for any comment or questions. Tim, back to you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and wish you great success on the school. That's going to be a tremendous addition for our state.
Thank you.
Next, we'll turn to Jen Briones to update us on our partnership with Credential Engine and our effort to register all secondary credentials in Alabama. Jen, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to AlabamaWorks and everyone else who had a part in organizing this webinar for having me on behalf of Credential Engine. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. All right. So for those of you who may not be familiar, at Credential Engine, we have been working with Nick Moore and the governor's office for a few years now on helping the state of Alabama meet its credential transparency goals, which I will get more into. I will talk about the secondary credentials specifically, but I also think it's really helpful to kind of just give some of that background and context to start off about who we are, what we do, etc. So at Credential Engine, we're a national nonpartisan nonprofit organization, and our mission is to bring clarity to the vast, enormous, huge, pick your synonym, marketplace of credentials. We know from our research that there are nearly 1 million unique credentials in the United States alone. And when we use that term credential, we really mean it as a broad umbrella term. Of course, it includes degrees of all levels, but also certificates, certifications, apprenticeships, badges, everything in between, anything that represents what a person has learned or earned. But it's really hard for people to find consistent, reliable information about credentials. You have so many to choose from, and you don't have consistent standards or ways to compare or evaluate them. And as a result, people can get lost and lose out on key opportunities. So what we're working to do is end that confusion, and as a result, any frustration associated with it by, again, mapping out that credential landscape. So we build partnerships with education and training providers, companies, organizations, state agencies like the governor's office in Alabama to help education training providers and others share that detailed information about their offerings, as well as describe the knowledge and skills they confer in a clear and consistent language. And then I like to show this slide briefly. I just said a lot of this, but just to point your attention to what we don't do. We don't collect or verify any personally identifiable information. We don't issue credentials, and we don't verify issued credentials. So really just dealing with that information about the credentials themselves, and rather than the people who are earning them. But how do we approach this work? Well, our vision is to establish a common infrastructure for organizing credential and competency data and making sure that our systems can easily integrate with others. So we do this by leveraging a common language, or if you want to get more technical, a schema. And it's called the Credential Transparency Description Language, or CTDL for short. And that's how we're able to describe the education and workforce data so that you can make those apples to apples comparisons. It's just like in the travel industry, regardless of whether you prefer to use Google, Travelocity, Expedia, Kayak, the list goes on and on, you're going to yield consistent results because they use a common language in the travel industry to describe their offerings, and they utilize linked open data. So that means that the data can be used across those different tools and applications. And really that's what we're doing with our CTDL. You can think of it as a dictionary of over 700 terms that can be used to describe those rich details about a credential. So how much will it cost someone to earn this credential? What competencies will be earned with this credential? What is the duration? Things like that. We also know that one tool can't be a silver bullet, right? So it's not going to work for all audiences, which is why you really need that common data infrastructure. So we're all working from the same playbook. And regardless of where you go to find the information, you're going to get that reliable, consistent information that you need. And that's also why everything we do is collaborative, right? So we really do value our partnerships with everyone, including the governor's office in Alabama. This is an infographic that is on our website, credentialengine.org, essentially showing what is possible with credential transparency. And there's also a video that goes along with this if you look at it on our website, but it shows how each of these groups at the bottom here gets something from credential transparency. And you can also see these little spotlights here that are the CTDL, literally illuminating these people's pathways, because we know that, even as some of the presenters before me have been sharing, not everyone's journey or pathway in education and into the workforce is going to be the same. And it's also not going to be linear. So this image is depicting that and ways that the CTDL and Credential Registry contribute to illuminating those pathways. This map you can also see on our website at credentialengine.org/state-partnerships. I encourage you to check it out and click on each of the states, especially Alabama, where you can read more about the work that we're doing in Alabama. But this is my role as the project manager, is managing our state and regional partnerships, of which we have 28 currently. And in each state, we typically have one lead agency. So again, in Alabama, it's the governor's office. We work with them to meet their goals. In Alabama, the goals are very ambitious, including adding more credential holders to the workforce, better articulating high demand skills and knowledge, and the list goes on from there. I just wanted to, again, briefly share this map and talk about our work in Alabama and other states. So now to share about the secondary work specifically, this is a screenshot of a recent press release announcing our secondary credentials work. We are still early in this work, which is why I'm sharing at a very high level, but I do hope to come back and share some concrete examples of implementation in the future. But we received a grant from the Walton Family Foundation to explore how adding secondary data to a larger statewide growing registry, like the goal is to do in Alabama, can not only improve accountability and student success, but again, also improve that pathway navigation and guidance for students, job seekers, learners. And between this and other philanthropic grants, we are working with 4 states, as it says here, Ohio, Alabama, Indiana, and Colorado, to continue their deep engagement in credential transparency work. They are all current partners of ours. But again, we're deepening that work and expanding it because the vast majority of the credentials we have in our credential registry are those post-secondary and workforce credentials. And if you're really going to want to have that P20 through W pipeline and pathway, we want to make sure that those secondary credentials are included as well. So of course, high school diplomas, CTE, everything beyond that. And you can see this press release has a great quote from Governor Ivey as well, just talking about how it's a natural extension of our existing partnership. And when Nick and I were talking about potentially doing this work together before it became official, he said, Jen, we're already planning on doing this. So regardless of whether we formalize this secondary work together, it's going to happen in Alabama. So again, that was really the impetus for us working together. These 4 states, again, are going to expand on the already innovative credential transparency work they're doing by ensuring that information about those secondary school credentials and their associated skills and competencies is, again, described in that common language and made public, easily accessible, and actionable. We know that the CTDL and the registry have already provided Alabama this infrastructure as you all are working on creating your own Alabama credential registry. And so expanding this work to add those secondary credentials is really going to further enable employers, education and training providers, and more to publish all of these credentials offered in the state. And high school students especially are going to be able to, again, see those connections to jobs, career pathways, career technical education, continuing education, whatever works best for their own personal journey. And we're currently working on the best ways to do that in Alabama. And again, I hope to come back and share more. But in general, this will also help you all state leaders, policymakers, just determine where do secondary credentials lie in this broader system, again, of credentials and pathways across the state of Alabama. So really looking forward to working with Nick Moore and others across the state, the Department of Education, and more beyond on this work together. And the last slide is just my contact information for those who may have any questions or want to connect with me outside of this webinar on the secondary credentials work or any of the credential transparency work in Alabama in general. My information is here. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to Tim.
Well, thank you, Jen. We appreciate you and Credential Engine team for your partnership and support in Alabama. Including our secondary credentials on the Alabama Credential Registry is really key to developing a credential currency in Alabama that will connect our secondary and post-secondary career pathways to in-demand occupations. And we look forward to the progress on that. We'd like you to come back as we go along. I know you and Nick are working close together, so he will invite you back. So thank you again for your presentation. And hopefully it'll be a better day as you go along in DC. I know you get the rain we had yesterday, so hope it gets dry soon. Our next speaker is Dr. Amber Garrison Duncan, who is with EBSCO and the Competency-Based Education Network. She's going to give us a preview on the Alabama Talent Triad. So Amber, are you ready to go?
I'm ready, Tim. Good to see
Okay.
you. Good morning, everybody. And yes, those storms, I live in Pensacola Beach, and those storms last night were something. And I know I had some limbs everywhere, and a poor bird fell out of its nest. So I hope y'all are doing all right this morning, and glad to see you here and that you had no trauma from that last night. But I'm really excited to be here with y'all today to give you some information about the Alabama Talent Triad. And sorry, that date is wrong. I forgot to change the front part of my slide. Just don't pay attention. It is not April 13th, though. Do not write that on any checks or anything today on accident. So I apologize. But I'm excited to be here to talk to you about the EBSCO digital wallet and kind of how this work is coming together, leveraging some of the work that Jen just talked about, but really just centering us in the goal here is that, you all have heard this many times before, is that we want 500,000 credentialed Alabamians in the workforce by 2025. And that we're really making sure we have good tools to support learners as they move about their journey from learning to work and back into learning and work. And you've heard through some of the examples even this morning of how that might happen, and that learning starts in high school, but we want to see that move beyond high school, and folks need to be able to earn credentials beyond high school as well. So really thinking about how do we put those pathways in front of people. One is transparency, but two, how do we make it user-friendly so that an actual Alabamian can make sense of all this data we're trying to pull together? And that's what we're really here to do in the Talent Triad, is to pull this together. So what do we have to do what are we trying to make transparent to people? One is we want to understand, what do employers need? What is the labor market demand for what types of credentials, what types of competencies, and not just broadly, but we really need to understand where those labor market demands are. What's happening in Dothan is going to be different than what's happening in Birmingham. So how do we get better data and information about what's needed in the labor market so we can then understand, okay, what credentials and competencies meet that demand? Where are those offered? Do we have those offered in the local labor markets where they're needed, or do we have some discrepancies? How do we make sure we have those right educational pathways for people? And then we need to understand, again, what does someone already know and what can they do? Maybe they're ready to apply for that job, or maybe we need to, again, promote that educational pathway that would allow them to meet the demand for that job and start to put those folks in front of employers. So really we're thinking about why it's called the Talent Triad, is we're trying to bring all these pieces of data and information together in one complete dashboard, so that all I have to do as an individual is log in and share some information or have some information in there, and then match that up with, again, credential data and with labor market data to understand, what jobs can I apply for? What learning might I need to pursue if I don't have all the skills I need to apply for the job I want right now? So really, again, this is kind of the talent triad. This is the three components of data that have to come together. And you all have, in the state, have been working very hard on this. You are leaders in this. There's no other state in the union that's got this quite amount of effort happening. So you just heard from Jen about Credential Engine. And again, what that makes transparent is, what are those educational pathways? What are the credentials? What are the competencies within them? So that we understand what's being offered from our education providers. Then we're also working with employers to say, can you put your job descriptions in a competency-based language so we can understand how those, again, match up with credentials or not? And then we're going to use that same competency data and same credential information and language to start to look at what people have in their revised kind of transcripts. So how do we really take those competencies and skill sets learned over a lifetime, allow those to live in one place so that we can, again, start to automate and match data across each of these sets. Again, with the thought of, we're, again, putting this into, put the talent triad to work for you, right? We want this to be much easier for employers. We want this to be much easier for education providers. And we want to make sure this especially much easier for Alabamians who are trying to find their way into work and into a labor market that's often not very transparent or helpful to them. So this is, again, bringing this all together into one place so that it lives where an individual can access it. So what should this do for people? We often get this question a lot is, again, if I can showcase what competencies, what I know and can do, make that more transparent in the labor market in a verified way. And I will say that's something that we hear as we put this in front of employers that they really like. This is not a LinkedIn kind of, hey, my grandma said I am good at public speaking. This is an employer really looking at something that an education provider says, I've watched somebody, I've observed somebody demonstrate this. I put my stamp of approval that they really are competent. They really are able to engage in public speaking. Then what we want to do is, again, make that the currency of our labor market. So we really want to focus it on, what do people know? What can they do? How do we connect people with their talents to that employer demand in a much clearer way? So a couple of just, again, use case examples, given the information that Jen just presented, and then the really cool work happening with the Magnet High School is thinking about, how do those credentials, how do we, again, make those individuals transparent? They've done a lot of good work to be skilled upon graduation from high school. And we want to make sure that and make that education provider's job easier. There could be a direct employer connection, but you could have 5 employer relationships and they're not going to be able to hire all your students. So we want to make sure every learner has access to the labor market and is able to get out into the world. Certainly we're looking at including degrees. And then one of the ones that is near and dear to my heart is thinking about how we help our military connected folks who have lots and lots of great education and training, but it's not very transparent to us in the civilian world what they know and can do. We can make that now very transparent so that they get access to civilian jobs and civilian careers, as well as credit for their prior learning. So they're not starting over when they come in. And the example I like to give there is, if you're a EMT, a lot of times folks have to start over right now coming out of the military to earn a civilian EMT, right? To be in an ambulance when there's someone who's been saving lives on the battlefield. The major discrepancy there is not that do they know anatomy and physiology, but it's a lot of the safety equipment that's different. And so instead of making them start all the way over, we now get to examine what they know and can do. Maybe we need to help provide them with like 20% of training to get them to that civilian credential and get them back into work. And so that's, some really just some good examples of what we can do to maximize, again, making it transparent what someone knows and can do, but we're not going to make people start over. We're going to keep them on that upward trajectory, that upward mobility route. The other piece that we like to say is should this matter to education providers? It very easily demonstrates the quality of your program, right? If we're not looking at information such as a course grade, we're looking at, again, what does someone know? What can they do? We are now able to connect that directly to the workforce. We know that these types of new records leads to increased employability of students. Again, this kind of provides instantly verified information in front of the employer. So the employer background check kind of lessens in weight because they're getting verified records directly from the institution in a language that they can use in their hiring process. And again, it encourages continuing education for adult workers. As you know, and as we have experienced in the pandemic and know is coming more and more, is that all of us are going to have multiple jobs over a lifetime. Some of jobs that we're in now may not exist in 10 years, and we may need to be in some other kind of job. And so it really assists with us, again, understanding and maximizing what does someone already have, how do we help fill the gap, and how do we, and then get them right back into the workforce. So it allows us to think, I like to say, instead of thinking about an unemployment office, let's think about that as reemployment. And our job really is about shifting that model and saying, we're going to reemploy you as quickly as possible. But again, we're not going to make you start over. So where are we at in pulling all this data together? There are some very smart technical people at EBSCO who are wizards. I call Kristen Delwa the wizard of the wallet. She is doing all the code of this. And really what we want is, again, for this to be open. This is not about producing a closed system of data that only certain people can access. This is really, again, will be the first state who is making sure that every citizen will have access to a digital wallet. So far, what we've seen is maybe an institution creates one of these wallets, or maybe 3 institutions create one of these wallets. Well, that means only the students that went to those institutions benefit from that. And that's not fair, right? We would all say that's not really fair if we think this is an important tool to providing mobility for people. So I think it's one of the coolest thing that's happening right now is that, again, this will be available to every Alabamian. And so in order to get to every Alabamian, right now what we're doing is, and I hesitate to call it a pilot, but we're starting with a set of community colleges and K-12 institutions to pull that credential data in, but also, again, connect that to the individual student. So how do I actually build a wallet for someone, present them with that, and then we're going to connect them to open jobs. So that will be part of what we're doing between now and June, is to really demonstrate that. How we're going to do that is, this is just kind of gives you an understanding of what these job descriptions just look like. So again, we're starting with the labor market. We're not going into these colleges and say, give us every student and every credential that you're producing right now. This is where we know we have demand, right? This is where we have jobs that are not filled in Alabama. We're going to start there. And so this is just so you can see what's coming in from manufacturing if we're looking for a machinist. As you can see on the right side, it'll show you some of those competency sets. You can also see on the left side some of the associated credentials. So when we go into the community colleges, and actually my next calls with Wallace Dothan, is we're going to say, like, here's the competencies we're looking for in the labor market. What credentials do you offer that help meet these demands? And let's make sure the learners that have that credential are the first ones to get this wallet, because we've got to get them connected up into the labor market. So we're going to start here, and then we will ask them again to identify which of those associated credentials are most in demand, which ones are you offering. We're seeking to get 100 students for each of those top 10 credentials offered across the state, which would mean between now and June, our goal is to make sure we have 10,000 Alabamians with a new digital wallet by June. So that's our first step, and we will build out from there and continue to grow from there. As you can imagine, thinking about, again, all these credentials that are offered across your learning ecosystem. So you have your K-12 system, you have your higher ed system, you have your workforce system, you have employer provided education and training, you have state licensure. All of those things will be captured in what we're building. But this is where we're, again, just starting from thinking again about demand and being able to help the most people and the most employers as quickly as possible. So that is the summary of the wallet, what it's coming together and looking like, and how all these data are going to start to be implemented soon. And I look forward to reporting back on how this first part goes. We're really excited about it, and look forward to, I know, just not talking with you about it, but actually getting into the work with you all too. So thanks for having us.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you for being with us today. Your enthusiasm is very contagious. So I know we're all eagerly awaiting the launch of the skills-based job description generator and the learning and employment record. These systems will really help us close the skills gap in Alabama by scaling competency-based education and skills-based hiring. So I know I'm one of them that's really excited about it, and you put it down there where we could really understand it. At least I could understand it. And I tell Nick all the time, if you can write something where I can understand it, then everybody else should be able to understand it. So I'm at a low level. But thank you again for being with us, and really looking forward to having you back soon to giving us an update on where we are and getting this thing on the road where we can use it. So thanks again. Now we'll have our monthly labor update from Nick Moore. Nick, take it away.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So good news to share today is that our state's unemployment rate has decreased to 2.9%. And that means that we're back down to the historical rate. So the all-time low rate of 2.9%. And we continue to have the lowest unemployment rate in the Southeast for 17 months. And we've seen our labor force participation rate tick up to 0.1%. So a lot of that is due to the work of everybody here, and a lot of the strength of our economy is beginning to show. So that also gives us a challenge of, now that we've got more jobs available than there are unemployed people, we continue to want to see even stronger growth in our labor force participation rate. And so just to kind of visualize in the rank order of where we are this month, you'll see that Alabama is ranked #1 in the Southeast, and there's a pretty big gap even among those states. And then looking at it nationally, we're actually not too far from being in the top 10 of having the lowest unemployment rate in the nation. And taking a look at our regional rates, we see very low unemployment in most regions, and take a look at Region 1 to where we're down to 2%. So folks, that's if we don't know, I don't know what we call full employment anymore, but that's not it. I don't really know what is. And our Opportunity Insights tracker for this month shows that since January 2020, we've seen a 58% or more than 58% increase in the number of job postings that are available. So there's plenty of different open jobs available for everyone in the state. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That was a good report, Nick. It sounds like good news on the labor front. You know, we continue to remind everybody that the unemployment rate's great, but we really need to focus on the labor force participation rate, which we're still lower than we should be. And we've got to help get those folks that are not into the workforce back into the workforce. And all of these programs we're working on, tools should help us do that. So I hope we'll continue to focus on the labor force participation rate. So I believe that wraps it up for today. I want to thank again all the speakers we had with us today. Really enjoyed that. We got something from actually in the education system showing how it connects to the workforce, and then with the cyber technology school, something coming online that's going to really help us in the technology area. And then with Jen and Amber showing you what's going on behind the scenes. We will report back on that as we progress through the year. So thank you again for joining us. Please join us next month at 9 a.m. on May 16th. And in the meantime, if you want to share this video, it'll be on AlabamaWorks.com website. So all of our videos are on there. And we appreciate all the work from AlabamaWorks folks behind the scenes. Thanks again. Have a good week.